My name is Elyse Fox, and you're listening to deuxsol Radio.
Peace, peace. Hey, what's up, y'all? It's Ariam
and Yodit.
And you're tuned in to deuxsol Radio.
That's right. Your favorite twins are back talking all things music and culture.
Because two takes are better than one, but twin takes are even better. And we're back with another episode.
Yes,
and we're super excited because we have a very special guest. We have creative director, mental health advocate, and founder of Sad Girls Club, Elyse Fox. Yay!
Hi.
Welcome.
Hello. Thank you for having me.
Of course. We have been so excited to chat with you for so long. So thank you for joining us today.
We connected probably like last year or so. Yeah. And we love the work that you're doing. And we thought, why have we never had Elyse on the show? I feel like you are so interesting. You're doing so many amazing things, specifically in the mental health world. And we just love to talk about all the work that you're doing.
Let's do it. I'm happy to be here.
Thank you. Thank you.
So let's start at the beginning. Let's talk a little bit about your early life, where you grew up. What was a young Elyse like?
Way back. Okay. So I was actually born in the Bronx and raised a little bit in the Bronx, moved upstate in my early years. And I was raised primarily by my mom, single parent, with my brother. And I lived in like I lived in Buffalo, New York, which people know of Buffalo, but it's the second biggest city in New York State, but it's one of the poorest cities in the country. So we had all of this like space, I guess you can say, but there was like businesses didn't last more than like 6 months in Buffalo. It was a very, very sad city. And I've always had an attachment to New York City. I've always had an attachment to I feel like I'm a Brooklyn girl through and through. So when we had to move away, I was like, damn. And then being around such like poverty and things like that just put me in like a space that I never thought existed. So my early years were like, honestly, I was like, how do I get out of here? Like, how do I get out of this place? How do I help my mom get out of here? Because I know this isn't my last or like ending space. But I lived there for a while. Actually went to high school in Buffalo and also South Carolina. And
oh, wow.
I know, I was bouncing around.
Right.
Hopping all the way down the coast.
But I just never felt like, those places were my home. So once I was able to, once I graduated, I was 17. I was like, you know what? I'm going to go to school in New York City. And my mom actually thought I was actually got accepted to Cornell, and she thought I was going to Cornell. And I like hid the acceptance letter because I was like, no, I want to live in New York City.
You hid the acceptance letter to an Ivy League? Did your mom find it?
She found out like not too long ago. Like,
oh, really?
I was like, I have a Caribbean mom. I was waiting until
oh my goodness, I would have taken that to the grave.
I know. Yeah. I said it in an interview and I was like, she can't find out this way. So
yeah.
I had to tell her.
Okay.
So I got into Cornell, but I was like, you know what? I want to be in the city because I'm a filmmaker. Like I do make film. Okay. Production has always been my like source of happiness.
Amazing.
And like being in Buffalo, I was just so uninspired. But I was inspired to just get out and like do more, like produce more, create more for my family and for my name. So I didn't think I could do that in Ithaca at Cornell. So I ended up going to Long Island University, which is downtown Brooklyn. And I was like, you know what? I feel like myself here. Like I feel a little bit more happy. I feel more at peace. And I feel like I have access to like be the better version of myself.
Yeah.
So I feel like that's like when the act like Elyse kind of came about was when I was able to have my own space and like I had my integrity in a city that I know was fulfilling to me. So you could always feel it as like a young child that you aren't where you know you need to be or will be forever. But like I use that as like a way to push me and propel me to be in a space where I knew I wanted to be and could be my best self.
Wow. So I love that you mentioned that you had this sense of self as a child, and just to kind of hear your story throughout the different phases of your life and how that became like a recurring theme that you recognize, like that says a lot about how in tune you were with your journey. So I think that's a really cool insight. And I love that you trusted your gut and decided to not go to Ithaca.
I mean, we went to school in Ithaca. We went to Ithaca.
Did you?
So.
Yeah. So you got spared 4 cold winters,
Oof,
like
yes,
terrible
you did.
winters. So.
But it was more brutal because I feel like this is before social media. So I would just be stranded in Ithaca.
That makes a big difference.
You know what I mean?
That makes a huge difference.
I looked into it. I was like, I don't know if this is going to be for me. It feels like Buffalo was just more isolated. But at least you two had each other, right?
Yes.
Okay.
We did. Which helps. That does help. So you mentioned that you have a background in filmmaking. So it's clear that you were tapped into like that world and that type of work. But we want to talk about your nonprofit, Sad Girls Club. So how does one start off as a filmmaker and end up making a path for themselves to create a space like that?
So Sad Girls Club is, I always say I'm like an accidental activist because Sad Girls Club blossomed out of a film that I created in 2016 about like my experience with depression. I was actually living in Los Angeles for 5 years and was like just after really bad experiences, I was just halted back into New York City. And it was a space, like I mentioned before, where I like felt like myself. I always felt seen. I always felt like it was home. But when I came back after 5 years being away, I was like, damn, everything is changing. Like gentrification had really boomed while I was living in Los Angeles. I didn't come home to visit much. And like my neighborhoods had changed. A lot of my friendships had changed. Everything was a little bit different. And I was like, damn, like not only am I like feeling depressed and I know I have depression, now I have to like rebuild all of these things that felt natural to me. So I would walk around with like my camera because I still wanted to be social and I wanted to be around people, but I also didn't want them to ask me like, why are you back? Like what happened? What's going on? And someone moves away and like I'm leaving forever and they come back. Of course, your friends are going to ask why. So I would go to events and I would have my camera because no one really talks to the person with the camera. You can still experience a party or the space, but you don't necessarily have to be, you don't have to disclose like the most deafening details about like your life and experiences.
So interesting.
So I would just be at parties and I would like film and I would do like recap videos and music videos and things like that, South by Southwest. And at the end of the year, I was like, I want to put out a film to show like, oh, I did all these great things. The first year I was back and I was depressed. But then I was like, I want to be more authentic and show like, yes, I was at South by, but I was so depressed right before I went on stage to record this artist. Or yeah, I look really happy here, but I was having an anxiety attack in the background. So I created this really cool 7-minute, super short like juxtaposition of these conversations I was having with my friends and also my experiences that I had that looked like I was having the time of my life, but I actually wasn't. It's named Conversations with Friends. And once I released that, women saw it and they were like, wait, me too. I'm always pretending or I'm putting on this mask and I don't want to. So how can I be more open and vulnerable in my story? So I took that and like created an Instagram page. And then from there, Sad Girls Club just continued to blossom into what it is today.
Wow. I love what you said about how you felt like you were living these very positive moments, but experiencing very difficult times as well. And a lot of people can relate to that, especially with, we're in this generation with social media, you're putting out like a highlight reel of your life, right? All the good times, but so many things to be happening simultaneously. That type of awareness is so important. And I love that something that you're passionate about had led you to something greater, and the work that you are doing is helping all these people. It's a really, really beautiful thing.
Thank you.
We had realized that we had already known about Sad Girls Club prior to finding you and finding the founder of it, because the reach on social media is amazing. And we've always noticed that the brand identity is super special and very unique. How did you land on creating that specific style?
Honestly, that makes me feel good because branding is like, you don't know if you got it right until it's out there and people are receiving it and digest it. But this is right before the pandemic. Obviously, a lot of questions or things were up in the air. Like, I'm running a nonprofit. We're 2 years in, a pandemic hits. What's next? What am I doing? And I was like, you know what? If we look good, we're going to attract the people who need us the most, because we didn't have any branding. I was just like very scrappy. I don't even think I was using Canva back then, but like we didn't have an actual logo 2 years in. So I remember speaking with this agency. They're called Tickety Boo. They're based in like Australia, UK, and the US. And I was like, hey, like we don't have a lot of money, but like this is what I'm doing. This is my project. These are my ideas. We just need I know if we have a strong brand, because I want to attract like girls like me. I want to attract girls like me. And I know that we're really into like how things look, not in like, oh, everything has to be overly aesthetically pleasing, but just, you want things to look nice and to feel like they're
like eye-catching.
Exactly. Yeah. I want that eye-catching feel. So over the course of like 4 months during the pandemic, their team built out our entire like brand kit. And I said, I want it to be approachable. I am a Black woman in the nonprofit space, millennial. And sometimes I feel like we are like the other, like we are the ones who have to kind of earn our respect in the space. But I was also just like, we are a young nonprofit. I want us to be fun. Like, I don't want to be stuffy. I don't want it to be black and white. Like, let's have fun. Let's bring in color. And our logo was actually, it's Sad Girls Club in the middle, but there's like a smiley face at the bottom. But then there's like, if you flip it over, it's a sad face. So it just shows the duality of what a sad girl can be. Yes, I could be front facing. I can be highly functioning, depressed person with a smile on my face, but I could also be having breakdowns, in between meetings. So I wanted it to be very bright and colorful. And I'm very much like taking it back to like our roots of when we first learned colors, like primary colors. We first learned those. Those are inviting. Blue obviously has the feeling. So just going into psychology of colors too. I wanted to bring that into it, but I think they nailed it. Like we had like 4 different versions. They were all great, but I wanted it to feel inviting, fun, and something that you would be proud to show and to wear and to have. Like sometimes I get merch from places and I'm like, that's gonna go in the drawer. I don't want our merch to go in the drawer. I want people to like wear it or like
it's like
rock
very
it proudly.
fun. That's what drew us to Sad Girls Club is the branding. It's
and it's
so
just like
well
a new
done.
take on how we talk about mental health,
right?
Especially amongst women, Black women. It could be, a vulnerable conversation to have, but I think the way you framed it makes it feel like accessible, which is really, really nice. And I think that's what resonates with a lot of people. The idea of community building for some could feel daunting, right? Like the idea of starting something that you hope would resonate with others that, you could relate to and share and give and receive with. When did you realize that this was something that you could actually build and commit to?
That thought came to me. So Sad Girls Club I started the Instagram page December 2016. And then I remember by January, like mid-January 2017, I was like, wait, let me look at the analytics and see where we all are. I was getting a lot of DMs. So I would get DMs from young women. I would send information or articles, resources that I knew about. But I was getting the same questions over and over. And I'm like, why don't we just all I wish we had a forum. This is before broadcast channels. I wish there was a forum where we could all be to have these conversations, but also to see each other, look each other in the eye. And I was like, you know what? Like, just create it. Like, you don't see it, then create it. So, all right.
Can you say that again?
If you don't see it, you can create it. Like,
Period.
Don't wait for somebody to do things for you, especially in the way that you want it done. Better to just do it yourself. So, I was working actually for a membership club at the time, and I was asking for favors. That's another thing. Call in favors, especially when you're starting something new. Don't be too shy to ask for help. People who love you want to help you. And I asked for like a little space in like the membership club. And I was like, I want to host just like a little brunch situation where we have a conversation about our mental health. I don't know what it was going to look like, what it was going to be. But I posted like one flyer on the Instagram page. And then we had 16 women come from, some girls were coming from like East New York, which is like a really rough neighborhood in Brooklyn, to the Upper West Side, women who were very affluent. And what happened after that meeting was a lot of women saw like, wait, we're going through the same problems. I may not have even like looked at you or saw that we were connected in any way, but at the end of the day, we are all connected through something that is, now we feel like is so negative about ourselves. So we had about a 2-hour like session. I brought in a therapist. We had like snacks. It was so cute. And then at the end, the youngest member who came, she was actually from the DMV. She was 16 and she was like, please don't let this be like a trend. Like my generation needs this. Like please keep this going. And she was 16. So I was like, you know what? I guess that's what I'm doing. This is what I'm doing now.
I feel like that was like your purpose.
Yeah.
She basically told you like, we need
She's like, keep going, keep this going. Because I was like, I did it. Like we had the event, I did it, it's done. Like let me go back to doing what I was doing. And then she was like, no girl, like this is what
keep
you're
it going.
doing. Yeah.
There's a need for it.
Exactly. And it's like, it's kind of like the haunting of what I do. Is like, there's always a need for it because you'll never be done, which is like, it's very heavy, but it's also affirming to know that what I'm doing every single day or every event is like chipping away at what the goal is and who we want to help. So it's like a gift, not a gift and a curse, but you have to look at it from both sides. Like this work will never be done, but I can't do it all. But whatever I'm doing right now is helpful.
Yeah.
Wow. Very, very powerful.
Thank you.
Yeah.
And the work that you are doing, it does center around community building. I mean, that's what it is at its core. What is something that you've taken from the community building, maybe online or in-person events, that has impacted you personally?
I would say as far as community building, I never thought of, because when I started Sad Girls Club, there were very few spaces, and like this whole thing with like meetups and these events and these brand events, this is like fairly new. None of that was really happening. And because they weren't happening, I didn't know how powerful it was to like go into a space and see people who look like you. And like, you don't have to code switch. You don't have to put on like a certain voice or what, like you could just come in as your true self. Like there are very few spaces like that. And I'm like, why? Like, you start questioning it, but then you see girls actually come in, like, I'm coming from work, I'm rolling out of bed, like they're coming to Sad Girls Club and they don't have to worry about putting on another layer or a mask of themselves to be a part of something so special. So it showed me like there is so much power in creating these spaces, whether we're just having some chips and some water or it's a really high production event. Like people just want to see each other face to face and like be able to have open conversations, because there are very few spaces, especially as an adult, that we are invited in and like we feel welcomed and we feel like we can be our true selves without it like ending up on Instagram or someone trying to like make fun of you. So I think that's what makes it really special. Our girls know that they can come as you are, like legit come as you are, but you're bonnet on your head, whatever you got going on, and we will like have a space for you.
I love that.
I think what you said about creating that space of safety is so essential. And we mentioned identity being a huge part. And then, of course, this mental health conversation. But particularly when we think about the intersection, in order for these spaces to really thrive, there needs to be a sense of safety and trust created. Is there some sort of criteria that you keep top of mind to help make sure like that is always a consistent part of all the work that you do within this community?
Yes. So for our events, especially our in-person events, in-person and digital, I think we do it for both. We have like a set of like rules that we don't create, like our members, whoever's attending, they create. So a rule might be like, I don't want to be in any photographs. So like we'll do our best to make sure the camera's angled to not capture that person. Or if we could avoid this topic about XYZ, or if there is going to be talks about XYZ, can we get like a trigger warning, that kind of thing. So we take it directly from our attendees, like, and it takes like maybe a couple minutes just to like set the rules, like the ground rules. And if anyone is like wants to submit it anonymously, they can do it. They can write it down and do it. So I think that helps create a safe space, as well as like pronouns and making sure we're addressing proper pronouns. That's been like feedback because we are a Sad Girls Club, but our events are open to any and everyone. So it's like, how do we have the language where it's like girls can come, boys can come, but then you're not leaving non-binary community members out too. So we're still kind of finding the sweet spot there with that language too, because we want everybody to come and experience it. And I'm also like, Black women should be the only ones healing. Like, bring the men in too. We have to do this all at once, you know?
Yeah, everyone could, use the help.
Everyone, exactly. So I want to make sure like everyone knows that they're welcome into our spaces. So I think language is a big part of it. Also, the come as you are, like really stressing that out. It's like, you feel like you have to buy a new fit I get invited to things. I'm like, do I need a new fit for this event? And it's like, no, you don't. Like, go grab something from the closet. So I know that's pressure that everyone feels like, what should I wear? Am I going to be up to par? Or like all these things. So I think just stressing, like, come as you are. Like, we really do not care how you come. Or if there's like specific color theme, like, just wear it. We try to do that too. So it's fun. We're wearing blue today. Like, we're celebrating the blues. Everything's going to be blue. So
like interactive.
Yeah. And you feel like you're a part of it before you even walk into the space. Yeah.
I love that. It just feels like a co-creation.
Yeah.
Like I think that opens the door for all of the vulnerability and the safety that you would hope would be taking place with every event, with every, activation that you end up doing.
Yeah.
So I love that element. And like, I love that you actually seek that out from the people that you are bringing into the spaces that you create. I think that's so essential. And I think a lot of people could take notes.
What we also love about your work is that it transcends social media and the physical events that you all have. You also have a column, Soft Launch, on Teen Vogue magazine.
Yes.
Can you talk to us about how that came about?
So Teen Vogue, those are my day ones, like legit day ones. When I first started Sad Girls Club, Teen Vogue was the first like platform to ever interview me. I think my first article even says like Instagrammer Elyse Fox. Like I had like no title. And I was like, okay, cute. But I've loved Teen Vogue. Obviously, like that's just a young girl's dream.
Right.
And when I first launched Sad Girls Club, they were very, very supportive of SGC. And I think over the years, we've always kept in contact. And then last year, one of the head editor, she reached out to me and she's like, hey, like, we want to start a mental health like vertical. We haven't had a dedicated column for mental health under Teen Vogue. And I was like, oh, wow, like you want me? Okay.
Wow.
So I did the interview with her and she was like, okay, like when do you want to start next month? My birthday's December. And she's like, do you want to start next month in the new year? And I was like, okay, cool. And I was like, I just want to create a space for young women to see like the funny and like quirky nuances of mental health, because mental health obviously is serious, but there are things that are a little like silly about it. Like, damn, this is just me. Or like, I feel like my new year started in March this year. Is that everybody else?
Yeah.
Like, so I want to just talk and like bring light to those spaces and bring light to certain topics of mental health that feel unapproachable, but they can be approachable and they can be a little bit like laughable too. And the person who gave me the gig was the same writer who gave me my first article. So it was like this full circle moment where she's like, I interviewed you and now I want you to have your own space where you can bring other people on. So I've been able to interview a lot of great therapists in the wellness space and talent and people who are just like doing amazing, great things. And I'm happy to like give those people a platform too.
Wow.
It's so amazing because we all grew up with Teen Vogue.
Right?
You know, we loved it. And I think if we had something like a column like that when we were growing up, imagine how helpful that could have been for our generation. Just how fashion is important, your mental health is very important too.
Exactly.
You never know who you could be helping or inspiring with every piece. So I think that's so cool that you've been offered this opportunity to keep extending these conversations, especially with young girls.
Thank you. Like you never know who you're going to reach. Some people aren't even on Instagram or TikTok. So I'm like, I want every medium. I want people to be able to find us every medium.
That's a real thing.
Yeah.
I love that you had recently had the opportunity to moderate a panel at Essence Fest. And the title, I have to read it. It's Vitamin G Anxiety Panel, but it's spelled anxiety. Like tea, which I think is so cute. And I wanted to know how important you think it is to diversify activations in a space like Essence Fest.
I'm down. Like I told myself this a couple years ago, I have to be the one to challenge the status quo of how things are produced and perceived, especially on like big platforms that inspires and like attracts and reaches the youth. Essence, like love them down. I'm speaking more to like television and media and like how to like have open and honest conversations about wellness. And I feel like we're getting there. But Essence Fest, I actually spoke with, it was so funny. I spoke with Nandi, who's I want to say she's like the director of content or collaboration. Hopefully I didn't screw that up. But I chatted with her in Ghana. We were on the trip and I was like, I really want to bring some wellness to like Essence Fest. Because I know for me, I'm not a festival girl because I get so anxious and it's just overwhelming. It's noisy. And there's no place to like feel like you can reset. So I was chatting with her and I was like, we should do something like just have like the conversation there. And we were chatting about it for like 4 or 5 months up until Essence Fest about how we can bring in other members of the wellness spaces. We had Cleopatra Lee and Malaya come in and they just shared their experiences with like, how do we make wellness accessible, fun, attractive, all of those things. And I think that it's something that was unexpected for Essence Fest. You just want to, people want the freebies and the Shea Moisture and all that stuff too.
You know, the music.
Yeah, the music.
The vibes.
Everything. Yeah. But it's nice to like, you can't ignore it if it's here in front of you. Like obviously you can try, but it was cool to see like generations. Some women came with like their mom or like their grandparents and they sat in on the conversation. Nice. Some people traveled in to see it. And it was nice because I think in order to normalize things, you have to bring them in slowly. You have to introduce them to the community slowly. And the South is definitely a market that we've been trying to infiltrate and like bring more conversations around wellness. So I was excited to like have that platform and that big audience.
I mean, it's amazing. I mean, Essence Fest, it couldn't have been like a better space for you to have an activation like this because of the work you do and who you're trying to reach. What you had to share and what you all discussed probably resonated more deeply than they probably even could have anticipated. So it just says a lot about the power of seeking out those opportunities and identifying new ways to produce events like you mentioned. So Ariam talked about all the other pockets that you have your hands in. You are a multi-hyphenate. And given that we're in this era where there's different forms of entrepreneurship and sometimes we see the beauty in that and sometimes we see the challenges of toxic hustle culture.
Yeah.
I would love to know if you've ever experienced any of those challenges. And if so, how have you been able to navigate protecting your mental health, protecting you while juggling all of these things as you continue doing this work?
I remember when I first kind of started, like, I guess influencer work with Sad Girls Club, and I was modeling since I was like 18 years old too. So I would do things and I'm like, okay, I would say yes to everything because I'm like, is this opportunity, is it ever going to come back around again? Or this seems really cool. But then I would get on set and I would be miserable. I'm like, oh my gosh, 12 hours, like, I was just so miserable. And I was like, this opportunity, I had to sit back and think about the opportunities that I had in front of me. I was like, this would be some girl's like dream. And I had to sit down, like if I'm not excited and if it isn't like a hell yes for me, then I have to pass. Because some girl, this is their hell yes. Like I want to do this 1,000%. And I felt like I was at times like taking away opportunities from some people just for me to have them and to say like, oh, that was a cool thing that I did or a cool partnership. So I kind of use that structure in like my influencer work and move that into like Sad Girls Club and like how I run my day to day. Like I can't do everything at once. So like I have to have a better schedule and structure within my schedule and boundaries as well. So like even with my like day to day, it was chaotic before, but now I only have calls on certain days of the week and I set those boundaries there.
Okay.
Just so my hustling has like some kind of
Structure.
Structure and boundaries. And then if things don't fit into that structure or within those boundaries, then, you know, I have to like kind of pass it on. And sometimes I'm like, that was so cool. Or like, it was a trip to, you know, this island. But if it doesn't work out for the long term, I'm also a mom. I have a 5-year-old. So like, I have to make sure I am going to be there and 100% for him too. So it comes down to like, yes, this opportunity is great, but this isn't the only thing that is coming to me. Like I'm putting out so much good. I can only expect good to come back to me. So, like, don't be afraid to like drop a ball to pick up something that's more beneficial to you in that moment, because whatever's meant for you will come back around. Always tenfold. I stand on that 100%. Helps you weed it out too, because if you have the structure and it's working and you feel good when you have it implemented, anything that comes along, you're like, oh, that's going to mess up Friday, or I'm going to have to put it kind of shifts everything around. And it also helps you identify what things are actually for you. Because we've gotten a lot of, since we are a nonprofit and we're very like a cool brand, a lot of other cool brands want to work with us, but like morally, I'm like, there's certain brands I just wouldn't work with. Right. And they'll come to, like, a couple have come and I'm like, I think this is a test, like to see if I would like take it. And when anytime I've said no to things where I'm like, I would, like, it seems so good. Like, but when you get a check in front of you, you're like, oh my gosh, that could help so many other people. But like, this isn't for us. Like, I know this isn't for us. It has always come back in a way that was way more, it resonated way more with our community and our brand. So I would say even when you're tested with like an opportunity that yes, I can shift things around, I can make it work. I don't know, maybe just quadruple think on it, because it might not be for you. It might be just like a test from the universe.
Yeah, that's the discernment in this space is so important.
Absolutely.
Yeah. Being able to have that, I mean, I can only imagine.
It's like a wow.
Yeah, it's definitely a muscle you have to work for sure. But I'm glad that that's where a lot of your decision making is rooted in. So that's awesome.
And a lot of people can learn from that just by hearing this conversation too.
I hope so.
Yes.
I like that in the beginning of your journey, you let us know that you have a background in filmmaking, which makes this next question make so much more sense. You also have founded Produced by Girls, which is a community to help creatives specifically women in media.
Yep.
So what has that journey been like for you, building that?
Produced by Girls actually was my first baby. I started that when I lived in Los Angeles. And this was around the time where there were a lot of like, I feel like there was like a rebirth of like hip hop. It was like when Odd Future had come back out and the internet, like a lot of cool male groups and like ASAP Mob, they were just like getting their shine. But there were also a lot of like female artists who were doing the same thing and they weren't really getting their shine or that spotlight. And I was like, you know what? Like I meet so many dope girls in LA, but you don't know their story. You don't know what's going on with them. I want to hear from them. So I remember just like making documentaries when I was out there. I want to make as many documentaries as possible. I actually was interning for Kuri and Chike, who made the Genius documentary at that time. I didn't know they were making that documentary at that time. I don't think they knew.
Oh, you didn't know it was happening at that time?
I don't think they knew what they were making at the time. And that kind of like full circle. I was like, yeah, I didn't know what you were making at that time, but it turned into this because you have to be patient. And it took them almost a decade. But I was interning with them and I'm like, okay, this is what you guys are doing, going to Chicago again to run around with Kanye, cool. But I was like, I want to do documentaries in a similar way, but I want to do it with femme artists. And this is like 2014, 2015. And I just found so many great girls and I was like, this is so cool. Like I want to continue like telling our stories because they're so important. And I didn't realize like all of the work that I did with Produced by Girls at that time, it helped me be able to tell my story when the chance came around in 2016 when I was, brought back to New York and I didn't know how to like structure myself. That reminder was, you interviewed so many young women who were vulnerable, who talked about their depression, suicide attempts, all of these things. And they shared that with you. Like you have to take a piece of yourself and share it with the world if you want to, be a part of the community that you want to create. So PBG has been kind of on hiatus since Sad Girls Club started because PBG basically started Sad Girls Club. It kind of rolled into one in a really cool way, an authentic way. But it's my space where I'm like, whenever I produce anything or if I work on a commercial or if I do anything, it's like, this is produced by girls. Like girls can do it too. And we weren't getting a lot of respect back then in the film industry. And now things are changing up a bit, but it was a way for us to say like, if you want to do anything, film, photography, whatever, like come with us, like we can find work to do.
I really want to know more about this. Okay, you recently designed Jordans.
Oh yeah. Oh
What the heck? That is the coolest thing
Same, like,
ever.
let's talk about that.
Let's talk about that.
That's like that was bucket list, like from when I felt like it was like 15 years old. I was like, I want to have my own shoe. I don't know how I'm gonna get there. I don't know who's gonna trust me with designing a shoe. But in 2023, I was signed to Jordan. They had the Jordan Women's Collective, which they chose different cohorts, one in New York, Chicago, and LA. And they hand select 4 people from each city, sometimes 5 from each city. And then they give them like challenges and projects and things like that. There were community efforts where we would donate our time to nonprofits. And then we also engage in like everything sport, everything basketball for the most part over the course of the year. But the first day that we met, I met my other 3 girls in my cohort. Shout out to Shay, Bianca, and Jasmine. They were like, okay, so you guys are going to design a Jordan and it has to be like, you can choose whatever you want, like whatever theme. And like the first day I met these girls, it's like all us just meeting each other, like, okay, you have an hour and a half to design your shoe.
Wow.
So it was just
to design not just any shoe, a Jordan.
A Jordan.
What?
But we didn't know anything about like if this was just like a digital product. Like, we didn't know it was going to be a physical like shoe, product
yeah.
like in stores.
Yeah.
We're like, okay, this is what we want. We went back and forth. But it was so cool. Like we come from different parts of the city too, but we all were on the same page with the details and the storytelling. And we wanted it to be like New York City authentic. And I was like, what are words that describe New Yorkers? And we wrote down a list. Of course, it was like cocky, overly confident. I was like, you know what? Since people say we're cocky, like we'll name the shoe "You're Welcome." And I'm like, because we don't get thanked for like the talent.
A nice tie.
You know what? You see what I mean?
That is cute. That's real
Come on,
cute.
branding.
So also like, so the brand, so we designed it as women. So I was like, women don't get thanked for everything that they do. Like we're the matriarchs of the house. Like we're the nucleus of any family, but we're never thanked. So it's just like, you're welcome. And then New Yorkers, they are, integral to hip hop culture. Yep. Every country imitates us, our lingo, our slang, inspired by, but we don't get the thank you. So it's just like, here, you're welcome. You're welcome for the culture. You're welcome for the music. You're welcome for the language.
It's a great umbrella.
But just like a catch-all.
Yeah.
And then as women, like, you're welcome for everything we do for the world in this thankless world. And then the colors are inspired by like the New York City bodega. And then we have like a really cool scratch-off component. Because when like being younger, you'll walk into the store and like the guys are like, what number are you thinking about? Should I take this number?
Yeah.
So like it brings that little component, and then like taking a bet on yourself. Like New Yorkers take a bet on themselves to not only just get out of New York for a better life, but like I want to take care of my community. So like I say you scratch off the Jordan logo and like make a wish, and like whatever your intention is, like it'll come true, So that was one of the coolest projects I worked on.
That is so cool.
There's just so much thought that went into designing this shoe. And I'm just shocked about the time frame. Like that to me.
It was, now thinking of it, I was like, did you guys know we knew each other for like an hour? We had breakfast and then we went to another room.
Wow.
And they were like, here you go.
Like to collaborate, first of all, with such a famous brand.
Yeah.
And to work with people you've just met and to be so in line with your vision is, wow.
Yeah,
that's incredible.
That's amazing.
Like that was the real test. And I love how it came out.
And it says a lot about how you are this creative, multidimensional person, and you can explore different outlets and different ways in. But it's interesting, even the element of the scratch off and like setting the intention, like you're still putting pieces of the work that you do within another medium.
Yeah.
Because it's important to you.
It's interwoven.
It's integral to you and your journey and how you hope to, put out good in the world. So I love to hear that.
I feel like when men do all these different projects and they usually aren't great at all of them ever, people are like, oh my God, that's so dope. And I'm like, we can do this too.
Yes.
Like, you guys are podcast hosts, but you could also, the words that you're saying resonate. That could be on a t-shirt. That can be like, so even like not putting yourself in a box. I really do not like niche, like coach, like, and I'm like so anti-niche. Like you can, there's no niche. We're humans. We can do so many great things in so many different ways. Yeah. Like a niche is great because you know what you're good at, but like you don't have to stick to that at all. And I'm trying to just show like, I'm a writer. Yes, I work in a nonprofit space. Yes, I do this, but like, there's so many other ways for you to communicate your message, and like don't ever feel like you need to be trapped in one box because you do one thing and that's what you're known for. You can pivot. Like you can switch it up, you can add to, and you can also just stop doing it when it doesn't feel good.
Yeah. As long as it's authentic to you.
Exactly.
Yeah. And you're always putting a piece of you in everything that you're doing.
Exactly.
We've talked about wellness. But we wanted to know for you, how do you define true wellness?
My definition of true wellness would be giving yourself what you need as soon as possible. Because I feel like we put things off until the weekend, or I have to do XYZ. But giving yourself, even if you can't give yourself that whole thing, like for example, if I need a break, I need to eat better, whatever. Instead of taking the full 2 hours to make a whole meal from scratch, you just make yourself the best version of the avocado toast that you need to have, that you can make in the 15 minutes you have. Like, there are things that we put off for ourselves that can make us feel 20 times better. Do what you need to do in that moment or as soon as possible, instead of putting it off until the weekend or until a sign comes that you need to move forward in this space. So I think just listening to your body and being reactive in the way that you would for someone else.
Ooh, yeah.
You know, we jump in for our friends. Like, we'll drop things for our friends. We'll drop things for our family. But like, do we drop things for ourselves when we know we need it? Sometimes no.
Wow. A lot of wellness in all forms, whether it's physical or mental, is centered around taking the time to listen to yourself, whether that's your intuition, your body, the signs. And like you said, just acting on it right away. You'd be so surprised to see what you alleviate.
Exactly.
No matter how big or how small the act is. So I like that perspective. We talked about obviously all the things that you have your hands in. We've talked about the things that inspire you and motivate you to keep doing the work that you do. But what piece of advice would you give to someone who is looking to create a brand or build a community, regardless of what it is? What's some advice you'd give to someone getting their start in that journey?
I would say understand your why. There are obviously a multitude of reasons why we want to try something, but are they authentic to you? Because if it isn't, it's like when you see someone who's like in a really cute outfit, you can like wear that outfit to the T, but is it really you? It's just a cool outfit you're wearing. Do it in a way that looks cool to you. Pick out pieces that work for you. So like, what is your why? And if your why is because someone else did it and it looked really cool, then like kind of revisit what your why is. And think about what you stand for and like what you won't shift. Because that's something where I'm always like, I can get so political, but like when I see things from people or like my favorite artists and I'm like, wait, you're going to be at this event with this company, but I thought you said, I don't know, I'm very just much like, what are your morals? What do you stand for? And people, and I really love like the younger generations, they really will check you on that. Like, this you? Is this you?
Yeah.
Like,
Gen Z is so
they will
big
clock you
about
for it.
authenticity.
You have to be
They'll definitely
authentic.
hold you accountable.
They will. And that's good.
I feel like as a millennial, I learn a lot from them too.
Me
It's
too.
like, why do we let these things, why do we not question these things?
Exactly.
Yeah.
And they should be questioned. So like
Yes,
your why if your why is this, then that should be a consistent thread in whatever you're building out and keep that consistent. And also like, don't focus in the beginning too much on like the branding and the cutesy stuff and the funny, witty things. Like, really understand who your target audience is, who your demographic is. Like, how much do you need to make this happen? All of the things that are so not fun and like could seem corny.
Yeah.
Those are the things you got to focus on first. Because if you build a house on like some popsicle sticks, then it's going to crumble eventually. But if
the foundation
has to be strong. It has to be there. And I'm sure you know this.
Yeah.
Like, you have to know exactly what you're doing, what direction. And that is like the unfun part, but it helps you kind of, like I said, weed out, or you won't get into a space where you're bringing in energy or products or whatever it is that you don't really rock with, because you already know what you stand for, what your why is. And that will be consistent. And that'll help you check off things that are either in the middle ground, yes or no. But I'll say that's a lot of it. And then when you are creating, yes, source inspo, but like, don't, inspiration is great, but like, what are you doing to make this yours? This person did it their way, and that's amazing. But like, what are you doing in your way to make this you? You can't copy anyone else's plan and expect to be successful.
Yep. Absolutely. Absolutely.
Wow.
That's some good advice. Okay,
Yes.
Elyse.
I'm trying.
We've talked about so many different things that you've worked on, that you've been a part of, that you've participated in. But what does the future look like for Elyse? Because there are just it's boundless.
Yeah.
Boundless.
And we definitely want to know what you're up to.
So I'm actually starting my own video podcast in the new year.
Yes.
Because I love my podcast girls.
Yay.
I'm such a podcast girly. And now with my son, I'm like taking him to different things. I just always have a podcast on in the car. But I love to like chat about, because a lot of people who know me because of Elyse from Sad Girls Club, but there was this whole other life before Elyse that I feel like I learned so many things where I want to help other people, not have to go through what I went through, but also just advice, funny stories, and also speaking about wellness from a place of like, things can be a little bit silly. Like we could have fun with this and still help one another. The same way comedians, they make fun of their pain and they're like, it's accepted.
Yeah.
I think there could be more spaces that just integrates wellness conversations like you guys are doing right now today. Like, well, integrating it into your platforms in a way that feels organic and authentic, but also bringing in voices who want to talk about, their experiences, but plus like the silly, funny nuances of ending an era and like becoming a new version of yourself, or like friendship breakups, or like friendship meetings and like all those things. I want to talk about just the nuances of becoming an adult and accepting like, damn, I'm the new adult. Like,
yes,
that's crazy.
We are.
I love that.
So that's one project. And then more design projects for sure. Like I really enjoy creating like physical product. So I'm going to be like really going into certain spaces that I'm very much like a homebody. So I want to create products around girls who are homebodies as well.
Okay.
Love that.
So the Jordans, can we grab them?
The Jordans they're live on Nike.com right now. So anybody can grab them. They're called, they're the Jordan Zoom 1 Comfort. And the name is You're Welcome.
You're welcome.
But they are so cute. Please grab them. And if you cop them, tag me. I want to see videos, unboxings, all of that good stuff.
That is so incredible. Seriously.
It's iconic.
Thank you.
That's amazing.
I appreciate it.
Wow. What can't you do?
What can't you do?
But we'd love to see it. We'd love to see you and just hear from you. Like, this has been such a wonderful conversation. I feel like you've given us so much insight into your world.
Really.
And have really inspired us, and I hope the listeners, to just go out there and just try. Thank you so much.
It was so nice meeting you and getting to know you more. If folks want to keep up with you and the work that you're doing at Sad Girls Club, drop the ads, the social media, all of that.
Got you. Sad Girls Club is Sad Girls Club on all social media, and then sadgirlsclub.org for our website. If you want to sign up for any of our programming, we're actually going to open up our grant scholarship program at the end of the year. But we have all types of free programming happening. And then Elyse Fox, my name is Elyse Fox on Threads, Twitter, everything. You can find me at TikTok as well. But yeah, I'm around.
Yay.
Vimeo, if you want to see any of my videos, Elyse.Fox there too.
Yes.
Awesome.
That wraps up today's episode. If you like what you heard, you can keep up with us on our socials at DEUXSOL. That's at deuxsol. You can watch us on YouTube, and you can listen to us on Spotify, Apple Podcasts, Amazon Music. If you can hear it, we'll be on it. And till next time, guys, peace.